Okay, so chances are if your childhood looked anything like mine did, you probably want an R34 of your own, or R33, R32, Evo, Toyota Serra, Bluebird. Whatever happens to be your dream car, we're gonna go over how we imported our car. And keep in mind, this is just an example because everyone's situation is gonna be different. Even just from the time period that we did this to now, it's already different because you don't have to worry about storage since R34 is already legal. We're gonna go over all the steps that we took and approximations of what everything costs, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first step on your journey to importing a JDM car is money. Don't bother anybody if you don't have money. You can't really finance any of this process. You need to have cash and be willing to throw it across the ocean and hope something comes back. So, I don't know, go rob a bank or something. They're just using your money to buy homes and eliminate home ownership anyway. To know how much money you need, there's a few good websites out there that you can check, like Guna Exchange, Car Sensor, Be Forward. These are all sites where you can see listings of active cars for sale right now. You can get an idea of how much money you need and you can budget from there so you'll be prepared for any surprises. Just like a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by our damn self, so go check out garage23.net to see our first ever merch drop, which includes this Kaiju Heavy hoodie. This hoodie is awesome because it has 100% cotton outer and a polyester lined inner. So it's nice and tough, durable on the outside, but soft on the inside. And it doesn't have any drawstrings, so it doesn't get you killed in a shop like this. We're gonna have this hoodie and 2 shirts dropping, one of this design and another one of R34 chilling in its original home of Fukuoka Prefecture. So check those out and use promo code DOYOURBEST for 20% off our introductory merch drop. And remember, all your purchases go toward helping your local impoverished car enthusiasts, i.e. us, and helps us provide more content for you guys to watch. So remember, thank you and always do your best. So once you have a decent amount of money, keep in mind, the price of the car and the price of the process are 2 different things. The car is, you know, just the one-time charge of whatever the car costs, and the process is this long, ongoing thing that's gonna keep punching you in the face, and this is not gonna stop. So keep that in mind, save up a little more than what the car is worth, a few thousand at least. So once you have a good amount saved up, then you need to go on to the next step, which is finding a reputable exporter, because you don't want to throw your money across the ocean and then get ghosted immediately, because that's not a good time. There's a few good exporters out there. We went with Zap Auto Export. There's also another one everyone probably knows is Top Rank Importers, the import guys in Washington. There's a few good ones and there's a lot more bad ones. So make sure you do your research and go with somebody that you trust. From there, that's where stuff's gonna start to change depending on your specific situation. I can't say how much Top Rank charges for certain things or the import guys. Zap Auto has their own sets of fees and stuff like that. So from there, you're gonna be paying for their general service fee is probably gonna be one thing you have to pay for, and then any inspection is going to be a separate fee. And then depending on where the car is, that's another thing that highly influences how much you're spending, because if like our exporter is mainly in Tokyo and Osaka, and if the car is in Hokkaido, yeah, that's still Japan, but keep in mind Japan's like the size of the west coast of the US, so it's like going from like LA to Oregon, so that's not cheap. They have to pay somebody to drive out there or fly out there, inspect the car and send you all the photos, videos and stuff. So keep that in mind. That cost is gonna vary with every exporter. And then transportation, again, if your car is like 500 miles away, you have to tow that thing back to wherever your exporter's warehouse is. So that's all stuff you gotta keep in mind. Ours happened to be in Osaka. We bought it from a dealership there. Basically just had to transport it to Tokyo. So ours wasn't too bad. And then when you're looking for your car, make sure you do, you want to do at least a few inspections just to get an idea of, what you're looking at. But also don't inspect every single car you have a mild interest in, because for one, it's going to get expensive. You're paying for the process every time. And you're also kind of wasting the exporter's time if they're just checking car after car after car for you. You really only want to check cars that are that you really, really like. Like with us, we inspected about 3 cars, and mainly because I was looking for a red R34 at first. The value just wasn't there. A lot of the red ones that we looked at had been in previous accidents and they just weren't repaired properly. One of them was literally just the front right bumper was just pulled back out and they stuck a new bumper cover on it and called it a day. Like that kind of thing just wasn't worth it to me. So I instead went with my second choice, which was a black one. This one was in much better condition. There's no accident damage or anything like that. So I thought that was a better trade-off than going with the red car. So that's all stuff you gotta, you know, weigh out when you're looking for a car. And so once you finally decide on a car, then that's when you have to send the big chunk of money across the ocean. And then your exporter will pay the dealership or whatever means you use to get your car. You can, you know, go to an auction or a third-party seller or whatever your situation will be. We got it from a dealership, so we paid them. Then it takes a couple days to process the paperwork and stuff. And then our exporter takes ownership of the vehicle. And that's your first tow bill, basically getting the car from wherever the car is to your exporter. And then this is another expense that we had that you probably won't now, because R34s are legal in the US now. So if you get a 98 or I think 99 now even, you won't have to pay storage. We bought this a couple of years ago, so we had to pay a couple of years of storage. So that's something that will vary from exporter to exporter. That's also like a few thousand. In general, it's gonna be about $200-ish a month for storage. Again, depends if you just want it outside with a tarp, indoors, climate controlled, indoors with service. There's a lot of variables. But from there, you just pay all your storage fees, all your paperwork fees, your inspections for the actual car. Then you just get to wait. You know, in our case, a couple of years, which seems like a very long time to send a few $1,000s overseas and just get pictures back. From here is just gonna depend how patient you are. We're not very patient, so we decided to go and see the car in person. And that's another thing that you'll have to take up with your individual exporters if they're willing to let you come visit. Zap Auto Export was nice enough to let us visit and see the car and even film a YouTube video there, which you can check out in the corner. But that's a huge expense that we didn't have to make, and you don't have to either, but I definitely recommend it. It's super fun getting to see the country and their culture and all that stuff. So there's a whole bunch of videos that we did there if you want to check that out. But yeah, we saw the car, and a couple months later, the car was eligible for export. And then your round 3 of getting punched in the face starts. Because then you got to pay for shipping, which hopefully you bought a functioning running car and you can use a RoRo ship. That stands for roll on, roll off. So this is contingent upon your vehicle working. This is gonna be the cheapest option, so I highly recommend doing a RoRo ship because all other options climb very steeply from here. So if your car doesn't run or is wrecked in some way, you might have to use a container to ship it, and that's like the most expensive way to do it. So I don't recommend that unless you have to. But RoRo shipping for us, and then again, this is one of those things that's gonna change. I mean, shipping charges vary month to month. But for us, it was $2,300 to ship the car from Port of Yokohama to Port of Long Beach. To even get the car on the ship, the first thing in the process is booking a spot, because these RoRo ships are primarily used for new vehicles. So when they're in Yokohama, the majority of their space is taken up by new cars by manufacturers like Nissan, Honda, Toyota. And any space they have left over is what they sell to exporters like our exporter. And so you have to book a spot on the ship. If you get a spot, then that's where your process starts. Then your exporter will go and get your export certificate. This is like the most important paper in like this whole process, because if you don't have this, everything is screwed up, right? This is like your title. Japan doesn't have titles. They have shaken, which is like a registration / title. So they don't really have a paper that translates to a title like we do in the US. So this export certificate, this is what serves as your title to the DMV here. So make sure you get this, make sure you have the original, make sure you don't lose it, because if you do, you're screwed. Your exporter will take care of that, and then he will hopefully FedEx it to you, and you'll receive it here in the US. In some cases, it'll get inspected for radiation because of the whole Fukushima incident stuff. Some things they're still getting checked for radiation upon export. I don't think ours was, because I didn't see any of the stickers. They'll put like radioactive stickers or something on it like that. I didn't see any of that, so maybe they're not doing that anymore. But regardless, it might be depending on where your car came from. If your car came from Fukushima Prefecture, it's probably gonna get inspected. But from there, that inspection, and then it's just getting dropped off at the port. So that's another tow bill that you're gonna have to pay for, is getting the car from the warehouse to the port, and then just dealing with customs from there, and then the car will get loaded to the ship whenever the ship is there and available. And then shipping is actually a lot quicker. Like the actual process of getting the car from Japan to California, it's a lot quicker than I thought. It only took 2 weeks for us. So I expected it to be months out at sea, right? But it turns out it's only like 2 weeks. From there is probably the biggest chunk of like small bills that you have to pay for. The first of which is you have to go to the port physically to pick up the car. So you either need a port escort or you need to have a TWIC card. That's a transit workers identification card. So the cost of an escort varies, because when I checked, it was like $200. I think it's less now. And the TWIC card itself, if you're eligible, which I am because I'm not a criminal, is also about $200. So I was like, well, might as well just get my own card. That way I don't have to deal with anybody else and waiting for them or whatever. Also, I thought if I had my own card, I could escort Camera Girl to get in with me. This wasn't the case. So pro tip number one, you need a TWIC card for every person that you want with you. And then to do all the paperwork, we were gonna do all the paperwork ourselves, but it turns out you need to have a broker's license to do part of the paperwork. So you're legitimately paywalled from doing the whole thing yourself, which kind of sucks. But also if you have a broker, it makes the whole process a little easier, and then there's somebody to have your back if something goes wrong. So it is what it is. The broker fees, it's a lot. Like, it largely depends on the value of your vehicle. So keep in mind, if you're buying an actual GTR, your broker's fees are gonna be through the freaking roof, because it's like 3 to 4% of the cost of the car. So on a $180,000 vehicle, that's math, I don't know, a lot. So keep that in mind. I'll have a breakdown of the fees that we were charged. We used Sound Brokerage in Seattle for our brokerage needs. They were super great, super helpful. Gwen and Becky were like amazing through this whole process. The shipping company actually kind of screwed up a bit, and we ended up going to the port before anything was cleared. But luckily they got a hold of the right people and everything, and got everything cleared morning that we arrived. So we got super lucky in that sense, because we could have just gone and then nothing was ready and we'd be stuck there waiting until whoever did their paperwork.
Oh, okay. We'll get you taken care of.
But once you get to the port, this is another thing that you have to decide on, like how to do, right? Because we have a Patrol and a Titan, which are things that you can tow with. We also have a Kevin that owns a trailer and was willing to rent to us. So we had that option of like going to get the car ourselves, right? And if you don't have those kind of options, you might have to just pay a transit company to pick up the car for you. That whole setup is different, and I can't really speak to like how to process that part, because that's not what we did. I just know that your paperwork is gonna have to be different, because whatever transporter you use, like their name and everything has to be on your paperwork for them to be able to pick up your car. So that whole setup is different, so keep that in mind. Pick a good transporter, because the last thing you want is to pick some sketchy dude with the tow truck and have him disappear with your GTR. So we decided to not go through that period and just do everything ourselves and pick it up. So the cost of freaking tires, in our case, fuel, accommodations, that's all stuff that you have to factor in. And then you go to the port, hopefully all your paperwork is in order. And thanks to Glenn and Becky, all our paperwork was set that morning. So we just turned up, gave them our whole packet of paperwork. They checked it out, and they will pull out this little plastic Tupperware box with a bunch of keys in it, with a couple of GTR keys. It's pretty interesting. And they will fish your key out from there and give it to you. Then you gotta walk your happy ass all the way the quarter-mile across the port to go find your car. If you're lucky, they'll give you a ride. They won't always will though. So you have to go find your car, and then there's another set of issues that could happen here is if your car is dead, somebody might have to go and give you a jump start, or like tow the vehicle out of there, or to your vehicle, I guess, or something. Luckily, Zap Auto Export bought us a brand new battery before the car shipped out. So ours literally still cranked right up and turned on, no problem. So I drove it from one corner of the port all the way to our truck and loaded it up. This is another part where we actually screwed up, is there's a customs office in Long Beach, but not at the port. So I thought that all the paperwork had to be like checked out there at the port, and then they just send you on your way. They just verify that all your paperwork is correct and the car's been cleared by customs. Customs isn't actually there, and depending on your state where you live, you may need customs to stamp your paperwork. So if that's the case, then you need to go to the customs office that's in Long Beach, but not at the port. There's like, it's not that far from the port, it's like a few miles, but you need to go there, take them your paperwork, and have them stamp it. Otherwise, the DMV in your state may not accept your paperwork. We live in Arizona, so it turns out we didn't need that stamp, which I was kind of freaking out about because I was about to drive my ass all the way back to LA and have them stamp the paperwork, but I decided to give it a shot anyway, and it worked out. We didn't need the stamp. They just took all my paperwork and gave me a title. So that part of the process is another really expensive part because again, it depends on where you live, but in Arizona, you need to have collector car insurance to be exempt from emissions testing, and pretty much any JDM vehicle is probably not going to pass emissions or smog or whatever you call it in your state. So in Arizona's case, the way around that is collector car insurance, and the way this works is companies like Grundy or Haggerty or American, they have different stipulations on what they'll cover. Like in our case, we went through Grundy collector car insurance. You have to have a garage, and the car has to be kept in the garage whenever it's at your property. So if you don't have a garage, probably not going to be covered by these companies, because pretty much all of them necessitate that you have a garage and you keep the car in there. So if you park your car outside in the street, that's not going to fly. I guess that's another expense that could be factored in here. We literally built a garage in anticipation of this. So this was like a long-term thing that obviously you may or may not have to do, but like we needed a garage anyway, and so we built this place to keep this car here in the long term. From there, you need to pay your premium for the insurance, and the difference between a regular daily driver insurance and a collector car insurance is they want their money up front, all of it. So if you have to pay for 2 years, they want that entire sum up front, whereas like normal daily insurance, you pay, 30, 40 bucks a month. That adds up to maybe about the same. Again, it depends on your specific car and whatever. The difference is collector cars won't do monthly payments. So you need to have that whole, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is for your car up front, and you need to pay that for them to cover your car. Because you need that slip of paper that says that the car's covered to give to the DMV so that they'll give you your title. Pay for your registration, that's another big expense because they will charge you based on the value of the vehicle, not the age. So again, if you have a $180,000 GTR, you might want to consider registering in Montana because it's going to be expensive. Even for this thing, our registration was like $1,200 for 2 years. So I got like $600 a year, which is like what our patrol costs to register, which is crazy. So that's another expense you got to be prepared for. But with that one, that's pretty much the last one. Then it's just fuel and maintenance stuff. But that's pretty much it. And you should have your car and you should be able to drive it wherever you want. That's another thing that depends on the insurance that you got. Because I know like Haggerty, they limit the mileage that you can have per year. So you'll be limited to like, 5,000 miles a year, 2,000 miles a year, whatever it is. Grundy doesn't stipulate mileage restrictions, so that was another big plus and reason why we went with them. But again, it depends what you pick, but that's pretty much the whole process, or at least the process that we went through. So let us know what you think and what car you would like to import and what exporter you want to go with. So that's it for this time, and see you guys later.